transcendental experiences in a desert. So I don't really care that much.
Okay.
But yeah, every mitzvah a Jew keeps is a good thing, and
so that's what I wanted to discuss.
I mean, there's a basic teaching in Judaism. I can't remember the source. Maybe Rabs knows. You can't rely on a miracle. You can't go into.
Well, that's a different thing. You can't expect the miracle to happen.
Right, and so we've got Abraham in this week's parsha. He's in a hostile land with a beautiful wife.
Name? I forgot what the parsha.
Lech Lecha.
Lech Lecha. Yeah.
And it's basically Genesis 12 to Genesis 18. So Abraham several times finds himself in a hostile land, and he's got a beautiful wife that the Goyim are very interested in, and are all prepared to take off to their pharaoh, to their king, to their leader, so he can have sex with her. And I totally...
Al tesmach al hanes.
What does that mean?
Don't rely on a miracle.
Okay.
I think of what it was called. Yeah.
So you could say, oh, Abraham should have relied on a miracle and being prepared to die to protect Sarah's honor. I don't agree. Like, we have a lot of rabbinic commentators who condemned Abraham for saying that she was his sister and he didn't stand up for Sarah's honor. I don't agree. First of all, she was his sister. She was his half-sister. The term sister was not just a specific term in that time period. It could be someone that you have an attachment to. And I think that you can basically do anything to try to stay alive. So if he had said, this is my wife, he most likely would have been murdered, and they would have taken her off and basically put her into slavery. So by lying and deceiving, he kept them in the ball game. And there are a lot of points here. For instance, in Judaism we have the basic teaching that you can commit any sin but 3 to preserve your life. This is different for men and women when it comes to sexual sins, because when a woman is forced to have sex, such as Sarah in this type of situation, she's much more passive, and she doesn't have to give up her life rather than effectively be raped, while a man does have to give up his life because a man has to penetrate, be much more active in a sexual experience. So Jewish law makes a differentiation here. So I agree with Abraham. You can't expect a miracle. You have to pragmatically take action to try to preserve your life. And false notions of chivalry. There's no word in Hebrew for chivalry or etiquette. It's not. And if there's no word in Hebrew for it, it means it's not real. It's something that the Goyim have glorified. So I think far more important than being chivalrous is staying alive. What do you think about Abraham and passing off Sarah as his sister rather than his wife? So
well, we saw another case of that later on when Esther and Mordecai they what was the story?
The book of the Megillah Esther, the book
Megillah,
of
they were married.
Mordecai refused to bow down, which is really weird.
No. But Mordecai and Esther were married, and if I remember correctly from the Medrash, and they got divorced so she could do this, so it wouldn't be HCC and all this other stuff, and she said, "That's my uncle." Who's that? That's my uncle. If I remember correctly from the Medrash, that they did this. It's like,
and Isaac is put in a similar situation. So.
But they did this lying thing, and there's a direct relationship between Esther and Sarah. Because how do you see it? Because the first line of the Megillah Esther says 127 provinces, and how old did Sarah live to be?
127.
Boom.
And I think there's also, I want to say this before I forget, I think there's a basic Jewish concept, and I don't know if it goes back to the Talmud, but I believe it does, that with the righteous you deal righteously, and with the wicked you deal wickedly. So if you're having to deal with a wicked person, you can be deceptive, you can do all sorts of things that you would not do if you were relating to a righteous person.
What is this, like Taqiyya law in Islam, where you can lie and do whatever you want with the Hebrews?
If you need to. Yeah, if you're dealing with wicked people, you need a little more flexibility. What do you think of that idea? You deal righteously with the righteous, and if necessary, you deal wickedly with the wicked.
Where does it say that?
I don't know. It's a basic Jewish teaching.
Really? If it's so basic, how come I've never heard it?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with your Rosh Yeshiva.
I'll look for it. How's that?
But
I've never seen that.
But come on, it's totally congruent with what you know about Torah. When you're struggling to stay alive, when you've got the Tsar, looking to recruit your kids to go into the army, and like all the oppression the Jews faced in Europe, and throughout the history since 2,600 years ago, the majority of Jews have lived as the minority in an oppressive regime of various sorts. You need to have a lot more flexibility with how you behave than you do with a righteous society and with righteous people. I mean, it's common sense. Absolutely common sense.
I hear that.
And common sense is a very basic pillar of Judaism. Get up and go. Lech lecha, get up and go. So Jews benefit from interacting with many different cultures. So it's not like Japan. The Jews are not like the Japanese who walled themselves off from the world.
Oh, really?
For thousands of years until Matthew Perry went in with ships and forced them to open up to the West. Jews have always interacted with many different cultures and have taken the good things that they've found.
Wait, Matthew Perry was an actor on 90210. What did he have to do with
He was also a Commodore in the 19th century.
Really?
Place is not permanent. So we just learned this in the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. We're living in a sukkah. Place is not permanent. Rabs and I are right now a mile from Beverly Hills, and even though we anticipate spending the rest of our lives in the United States, we may very well be someplace very different very soon. And place is not permanent. In the Jewish perspective on life, only God and Torah. That's a message of Sukkot. So why did God speak to Abraham? I think one reason could be that God speaks to those who can hear him. That if you put yourself on a higher spiritual level, this is a teaching of Maimonides, that those who elevate their intellect to the divine, they're much more likely to hear the divine than those who lead a much more base life. Why did so many men get these skin diseases, aka the clap, after interacting with Sarah? Like, why was our matriarch Sarah going around giving these men the clap? What's up with that? Well, the Pharaoh gets a skin disease, and some other king gets a skin disease after interacting with Sarah. So you could say, oh, that's God, smiting them down to let them know that they shouldn't touch Sarah. Or our matriarch Sarah was going around giving guys the clap.
No, not the latter.
Okay, I'm just curious. So I don't think Abraham was happy that the Pharaoh was pluking his wife, possibly pluking his wife. But life is rarely a choice between good and bad. It's like, life is rarely a choice between, let me pluke my wife, or the Pharaoh pluke my wife. I wonder what I should choose. Life is usually a choice between miserable and awful, or okay and less than okay.
What pasuk are you talking about?
Well, you know that Pharaoh takes Sarah, and Sarah's taken also by some other king in the book of Bereshit. So Abraham didn't have a choice between great alternatives. So that's how life is. So can you do the right thing and still commit a sin? So, Abraham perhaps committed a sin by lying and saying she's my sister, but he still did the pragmatic right thing. So if I'm dealing with someone wicked and I told them a lie, yeah, maybe I'm sinning, and I'm also could be doing the right thing. We recently had a pasuk in Israel that it's okay for Jewish spies, if they necessary for the safety of the Jewish state, to sleep with somebody if they need to get information. And the Vikings have just stormed back to score very two quick touchdowns on the arm of Brett Favre. The first touchdown was his 500th career touchdown on a long throw to Randy Moss. Now Vikings have just stormed back. The score is now 15-13 with 12:47 to go. Fourth quarter. Temperature outside, it's a very chill 66
What
degrees.
are you talking? I'm dying in here.
Oh, that's just because of the heat coming off my Torah insights.